Welcome back. We now focus on a pivotal moment in global diplomacy as the United Nations Security Council hosts a high-level debate on maintenance of international peace and security, addressing historical injustice and enhancing Africa's effective representation. This landmark discussion brought together world leaders, diplomats and experts to confront long-standing issues of historical inequity, as well as the urgent call to enhance Africa's representation in the UN Security Council to better reflect the continent's significant role in international peace as well as security. Joining us via Zoom from Zimbabwe's capital, Harare, is the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Dr. Peya Mushelenga. Dr. Mushelenga, good evening and welcome to the Daily Roundup.
Good evening, and thank you very much for inviting me to this program.
Dr. Mushelenga, to start with, what is the common African position regarding Africa's representation on the UN Security Council?
Well, the common Africa position on the reforms of the UN Security Council is that Africa should be represented by two countries in the permanent category, with all privileges that is vested in permanent members, meaning the veto right. In addition to those permanent members that we want to have, we want additional 2 seats in the non-permanent category of the Security Council in order to reflect equitable representation. Because if you look now, for example, if you take Europe, both Western and Eastern, you would have 7 members in the Security Council. That is now, you have 3 in the permanent category, plus the other 2, the other 4 that are not in the permanent category. You have 7 countries. Now, Africa has only 3, both of whom are not in the permanent category. That's why we say we want 2 in the permanent plus additional 2 in the non-permanent, so that we also have 7 in the Security Council.
Speak to us, Dr. Mushelenga, about the historical factors that have shaped the current global power structures, particularly in relation to Africa.
You know, these power relations, you trace them back to history, to the World War. After the First World War, the League of Nations was established with the aim to ensure that it maintained world peace. Now, when the League of Nations was established, as I said, the aim was to maintain world peace. It did not prevent the outbreak of the Second World War. So when the Second World War broke out, again, countries that won the war came together and decided the League of Nations was not really strong enough. They would have to come up with the United Nations. It was then structured in such a manner that it would have a Security Council of 15 members. This Security Council now comprises of permanent members with the right to veto. Now, obviously, these countries now belongs to the victors. You would appreciate that by then, you only had Liberia and Ethiopia, who were founding members of the League of Nations, who were still then independent African countries. The whole of the continent was under colonialism. So these powers, they decided that they will allocate among themselves these seats, and they left out Africa. But things changed then. Over the years, African countries became independent, and African countries have the potential to contribute to the management of international public affairs. Africa has resources. Now, this continent has countries that comprises about 28% of the member states of the United Nations. But you still have this continent locked out just because of the historic factors from the end of the World War. And it has really been an injustice to the continent. Now we are saying, over the years, with all these dynamics that have excluded Africa from the center of decision making, it is now time to rectify these imbalances.
On that note, Dr. Mushelenga, how does Africa's inclusion in the permanent membership category contribute to improving the Council's legitimacy?
First, you should appreciate that most of the Council's discussions focuses on Africa. There is quite a substantial percentage of the discussion that focuses on Africa. Now, how do you discuss countries, decide for them, and they are not part and parcel of that decision making? So you lack legitimacy. You are sitting there adopting this they and us picture, thinking that you can decide for other people. The whole continent, you see, it is the only, the whole continent is not represented in the permanent category of the Security Council.
Dr. Mushelenga, that's all the time we have to engage you this evening. I want to just ask for your brief and final remarks.
Yes, the issue is that Africa has been patient over the years, but the patience is also running out because, as I said at the UN, our patience does not mean acquiescence. It doesn't mean that we agree with what was going on. There will be time when perhaps when generations will come, they can easily say, this thing is not working. Let us form our own body, developing countries of the South. It might not only be Africa, it might be some other countries of the South that feel left out, like you have the Caribbean and others. Let's have our own institution. And suppose they walk out, what will remain of the United Nations? So it's time to address these things.
Dr. Peya Mushelenga, we thank you so much for your time this evening. Thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
When we come back, it's almost time to say goodbye.